Maybe you've seen these things and thought, why doesn't the council fix this streetlight? You'd be wrong, because they're actually not streetlights. There are sewer vents or sewer ventilation pipes, and they're supposed to look like that. Some of them go back as far as Victorian times, and a lot of them have maker's marks on them, like this one here, which was made by Tonge and Taggart in Dublin. But some of the ones in Ireland were actually made in England or in Scotland, and you'll find out by looking at the maker's mark. And in this video, I want to show you how you can map sewer vents and how you can help create a map of all the sewer vents that we can then filter by the manufacturer. I've started making that map using overpass-turbo, and I'm sure there are better ways of doing it. I just don't have the abilities. If I click run now, you will see all the sewer vents that I've mapped already, or some other people have mapped, but mostly me. And where I could find out the manufacturer, I have added the key manufacturer : Wikidata, we'll get there. And that's how I filter them. Because sometimes the same manufacturer might make different over time, because some of them existed for 100 years. They might have made different batches of sewer vents, and then they might have spelled their name different, or well, not spelled different, but they might have been taken over by another company, and the name changes sometimes, or sometimes the sons join the company, and then it's such and sons all of a sudden. So when you use Wikidata, you can put all the names in the one Wikidata entry, and that makes it much easier to filter by the manufacturer, no matter what their name was at that specific time. Okay, so I'll press run now. And you see the grey ones, I haven't found out who the manufacturer is, and they're also a little bit smaller. The red one, for example, is Adams Hydraulics in York, Adams Hydraulics Limited, York. But you see that there is not a single one mapped in York, because I couldn't find them on Wikimedia. But you see that they're quite spread out. So we have some in Cork, and we have some in Northern Ireland, and we have some north of Liverpool, and we actually found one in Kilkenny today, and we have them in Enniscorthy. The blue ones, for example, that's kind of what started it all off, is Drogheda Ironworks. So there are 3 of them in Freshford. I haven't found any more. And then there are other combinations. The most recent ones, they're not historic. They are made by Jackson Engineering in Castlebar, County Mayo, and they're still active. So these are 3 I've identified in Kilkenny, for example, and they don't even have a maker's mark like I showed in the introduction. They're not cast iron, but they just put stickers on theirs, which is not going to last as long as the cast iron ones, of course. But at least I could find out who made them. And they all look slightly different. Some have what's called fluted bases, and if you don't know what that means, I'll show you in an example. And some of the bases are cylindrical, and some are conical, and some are actually bulbous. In Rathfarnham in Dublin, there are a couple of those. I don't have a photograph of one of those on Wikimedia. And if you haven't guessed why this is heritage yet, because it is industrial heritage, but some of them are actually on the National Inventory of Architectural Heritage. So they're considered monuments by the National Monument Service. Very different monuments than your passage tomb, of course, but they're still part of the Irish heritage and even British heritage, because, as I said, a lot of them were made in the UK, or when it was all still Great Britain. So Adams Hydraulics, as I said, is in York. Another one is C.E. Rogers Engineers Watford, which should be green, but I don't think do I have a green one? A green one? I don't think so. There's one in London, never mind that. Tonge and Taggart is brown and brown, so you can define the ring and the filling difference. So there's one made by Tonge and Taggart, but the one that I showed you in the introduction is here. It's this one here, and I haven't added the manufacturer Wikidata yet. That's why it's not colored in, because I want to show you how to do that. So you see I have put the manufacturer in, but not the manufacturer Wikidata, and that's what this code here is looking for. So I'll show you how I mapped it first on OSMAnd, and then we'll add a couple more tags to this specific sewer pipe. We're just going to do this one. So I used OSMAnd because I was out and about, and it is the easiest way for me anyway to map points. And the main tag is man-made sewer vent with an underscore. There's no preset for it, so you have to remember or make a preset for yourself. And then I would suggest you add as much information as you can while you're there, because it gets more difficult once you've uploaded the data onto OSMAnd. You can't access it in OSMAnd anymore. You have to go use every door then, or go home, remember all the facts about it, and do it on your computer, which is fine because you're probably not gonna look up the NIH reference number on your phone. I mean, you can, but it's easier, I think, on a larger screen. But you can't access it in OSMAnd once you've saved it. And you see it also auto-corrected my spelling of the manufacturer. I got the name wrong anyway because I couldn't read it properly on the maker's mark, but then I googled the name that I thought it was, and it gave me the proper one. And then I looked again at the picture, and it does actually say tongue rather than funds, which I had read first. But that's something you have to look out for maybe when you're mapping with your phone. When you're typing in names, it might autocorrect it, and then you'll be in trouble with finding the manufacturer. Just as an overview, I have documented how to tag all the sewer vents on the wiki. It's not an established tag. I haven't gone through a proposal process, but I looked at what they're called on Wikidata, and that's how I decided to call it sewer_vent rather than sewer ventilation pipe, because I thought that's too long. That's gonna lead to too many spelling mistakes. So the key is man-made and then equals sewer vent with the underscore in between. So that's the basic one you're going to need. But of course, that's not going to show anything in the fancy color-coded map. So you have to add more, like the manufacturer. And you just put in the name if you can read it on the maker's mark. Sometimes they don't have them, and obviously you can't do anything about that then. In the long run, we might be able to, if more people chip in, experts for this kind of stuff, we might be able to identify the maker just by looking at the base of the ventilation shaft and the top as well, because the tops do differ as well. But I haven't added that to this table yet. So there are some of the tags. This might grow even more, but it's already quite a bit. So the color, I think originally, my suspicion is that they were all green. Because if you look at the photographs here, so this one is not very green now, but you can see that it used to be painted green, and this one as well, and this one here. Maybe that was just the way people painted stuff in Victorian and Georgian times. So maybe it doesn't make an awful lot of sense to put the color in, but some are black as well. And then the height is going to be difficult to determine unless you're very good at guessing heights. I'm terrible at it, so I'm not going to do it. And I'm not sure if guessing the height is a good way to map. Then we get into the nitty-gritty of things, which I've only come up with yesterday because I noticed that they all look different. So we're going to use sewer_vent as the basic one, and then base, shape, and then you have the three options: cylindrical, bulbous, and conical. As I said, I don't have a photograph of the bulbous ones. And then also sewer vent base fluted, yes or no. So this first one here is fluted, so there are these grooves here. It's better visible on this one. So this would be a fluted one. It kind of looks more like your typical Greek column. Not that there is such a thing as a typical Greek column, but an Ionic. I think it would be an Ionic column. And then some of them don't have flutes, like this one here. And this is Adams Hydraulics in York. They didn't use flutes. So they're just straight, and they're usually cylindrical. And so these are very specific things you could add to the map, because then we could filter, if we had a more sophisticated map than this one, we could filter by the shape as well. So if you could just say show me just the cylindrical fluted ones in Ireland or something. I don't know why you would want to do that, but we could. And you can't do that if you just put it in the description. If you just write in the description, this vent pipe has a fluted base with a conical shaft or whatever. You can only do that if you make it machine readable, like we're doing with these two tags. Then you can add a wiki comments link for this specific sewer vent if you have taken a picture or if you find it online. All these images here in the table are from Wikimedia. And you can add a mapillary link and also bubble ID. I haven't mentioned that before because I've myself only started using it. So bubble ID is the ID that refers to the Bing Streetside imagery, which is a fairly recent addition to our tools. So Bing is providing these, and they're usually 360 degree, like you know it from Google Street View. But of course we can't use Google Street View, but we can use the Bing Streetside imagery. And you use there is a number, and you use that number. If they are in Ireland and if they are on the National Inventory of Architectural Heritage, you can use the key ref IE NIAH. And if they are in the UK or in England, somebody has actually added this one here. You use these two keys, but I don't know much about them because I've never used them. Then if they are on these indices registers, you can also use heritage equals yes. And then sometimes they have an inscription that isn't just the maker's mark. You can use that for the inscription. For example, in Dublin, the ones in Rathfarnham, the bulbous ones, they have this inscription, SDRDC. And I had figured out that SD probably stands for South Dublin. And I tweeted about the rest, and somebody said it possibly means South Dublin Rural District Council, which makes sense because I've seen some in England that have the council name also imprinted. And councils like doing that. There are bollards in Kilkenny, for example, that have the council logo on them because they're cast iron. But you see, this one is much more elaborate, and the top is like very, very nice looking. And some in England have like a weather vane on them and a little crown. And they might have been, I haven't done an awful lot of research into this, but they might have been made especially for a Jubilee of Queen Victoria. So we will just ignore that because it's over in England. And then down here, I've started creating a list of known manufacturers of sewer vents. So we have all the names there. And then the Wikidata, so you don't have to look them up on Wikidata. And the table is also sortable if for some reason you wanted to do that. And then we have 3 examples here. So now, I'll leave that open. Now we will go and add details to the one in the introduction. So it's this one here. I could have just gone in via openstreetmap.org, but since I have this query run, I'll do it this way. So I open this, and this opens the ID editor. Can't zoom in anymore. And I go into the editing mode. And it's highlighted because when you go in from this map, it always highlights the thing that you have, the node that you have clicked on. So you see the icon is this man-made thing. So we want to add the manufacturer Wikidata, and I go here. So the manufacturer is Tongue and Taggart, if you remember. Go here, and I can just copy this code here and paste it. Alternatively, you could look for Tongue and Taggart on Wikidata. There's all the Wikidata information, and you could just copy it from here. Should be the same one. And then it is also, as I said, it's on the National Inventory of Architectural Heritage, ref IE NIAH. So I'll have to pull that up. It's on maps.archaeology.ie historic environment. Where are we here? Rathfarnham. That is obviously not a coincidence. Well, this happens sometimes with the historic environment viewer. It just doesn't show the blue dots, which is super annoying. Because that's what I want at the moment. I think I have created a Wikidata entry for this specific one though. Let's see, sewer vent on what screen maybe? Can't remember what I called it. That is unfortunate. The other way to find them is via Buildings of Ireland. Search surveys and go into the advanced search. And you can search by type, and they are down under V for vent pipe. And then I'm going to go for Kilkenny. There aren't terribly many in Kilkenny. And it's this one here, Grange Road. It's actually called Granges Road. And that's the one, and the number is here. So I found it after all. So that's the ref IE NIAH. What else can we add? Should know this, shouldn't I? The sewer vent base shape and all that is sewer vent base shape. I'll use this picture maybe if it's good enough. It's not quite good enough. I'll use comments. Just find the right one. There. So I would say that is not conical, this bit here. It's cylindrical. So cylindrical. And then we want to add whether it's fluted or not. And it is fluted, so yes. And Wikimedia comments. We'll copy this one here. It has to include the file colon bit. Mapillary, we'll see. Should be, because I made a point, I think, of taking a picture. Hopefully, maybe not. Or just, yeah, that's good enough, I think. So what you do is you go down here where the little symbol is. If you're watching it with subtitles, it'll be difficult for you to see, but in the preview window of the mapillary, there is the little mapillary icon and year, in this case 2019, and you right click on the icon and go to copy link. Go back to your sewer vent, add the key mapillary and paste that, but it only needs the number, so you're gonna have to delete this part here where it says ampersand focus equals photo, and then go to the front of the number string and delete everything before that. So all you need is this number. I think it's 13, 17, I don't know how many. So that's the mapillary, and if we wanted to see if it's on Bing, we have to open this again, turn off mapillary, turn on Bing Streetside. So they haven't covered all of Kilkenny yet. They're still in the process, or whatever. So this, you try to get the one that is closest to the sewer vent and click on that. And then you have to turn, you hold your left mouse button on your mouse and have to turn it around to be able to see the 360 degree. And you see how it follows it on in the ID editor. So you get a good idea of where it's looking at. And then you can zoom in. It's not the clearest picture by all means, but this is it there. And to get that link, you click on where it says report a privacy concern with this image, right click, copy link, and again go onto the sewer vent and add bubble ID. Paste this and you have the same problem here. There's a lot more information than you actually need. And just delete everything. There's a lot more to delete. Everything after and including ampersand focus equals photo, and then go back to where it says bubble ID equals and delete everything before that. So you have this number, which is shorter than the mapillary number. Yeah, so that's the two imageries added. We have the ref niah. It didn't have any inscription apart from the maker's mark. And I suppose, yeah, we can add heritage, yes. So that is quite a lot of information. But the more information you add, the better the database gets. So then we have to save it, of course. Added details to sewer vent, and of course I've done that before. I don't think I've used any hashtag in this case. And because I've used the street imagery, mapillary and Streetside, it automatically adds them to the sources. So that's grand. And I can just click upload. And I can go to the front page. They're not rendered at all because it's not an established tag, but they are there. So if I run this, so remember this is what it looks like now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tags. If I wait a little while and run this again, it should change color. It should change into brown. Yeah, brown ring and brown filling, because that's the color for tongue and taggart here. And I will not link this query link in the video description because I'm kind of still working on it. I'm still adding manufacturers. So you'll have to go to the wiki page for the sewer vents and look here, click on this link here, because I'm going to update this one as I go along. So let's run this again. Yeah, so it changed color. Hopefully you saw that. If I click on it now, you'll have a lot more information there now. And as usual, they're in alphabetical order, not in any hierarchical order or anything. It's just to show you what's there. So I think it's interesting that you can make a map of the industrial history of Ireland and Britain. And it'd be nice if some more were tagged in a bit more detail if you wanted to do that. I'd especially be interested in finding out who the makers of the ones in Rathfarnham are. Oh, there's an image of one of them. I'll just link that. So this is what they look like. So they have this bulbous bit there in the middle, and this one is actually dated to 1912. And I'm not sure where it says SDRDC. Maybe on this, maybe this might be the maker's mark, but it's impossible on this small picture to make out. But you see, it's green again. That seems to be the color of choice for them. So there are these two in Rathfarnham that are of that type, and then there's one in Rathcoole, I think, which might look like it as well. I don't remember exactly. But please do add them and let me know your thoughts about this type of mapping in the comments, and I shall see you hopefully soon in another video. Slán go fóill.